Good morning, everyone. My name is Afrin Jahan Rimi. This video podcast defends my dissertation titled Subscription Strategy and Customer Retention, an analysis of Amazon Prime in the UK e-commerce market. The focus of this dissertation is how Amazon Prime supports customer retention in the UK market. I examine Prime not simply as a delivery subscription, but as a wide strategic system combining delivery, streaming, music, reading, gaming, photos, and promotional benefits. My central argument is that Amazon Prime does not only retain customers through loyalty, it retains customers through what I call a retention architecture. The starting point of this dissertation is the shift in digital commerce from customer acquisition to customer retention. In competitive online markets, attracting customer is more expensive. Therefore, firms increasingly try to build systems that keep customer active over time. Subscription models are important because they create recurring payment, repeated engagement, and potential barriers to cancellations. Amazon Prime is a strong case because it began in the UK as a delivery service but has developed into a multi-service ecosystem. Customers do not only receive delivery benefits, they also gain access to Prime Video, Prime Music, Prime Reading, Prime Gaming, Amazon Photos, and exclusive deals. The research problem is that existing scholarship often treats switching costs, habit, commitment, and ecosystem integration separately. My dissertation argues that in Amazon Prime, these mechanisms interact as one integrated retention system. The research question is, how does Amazon Prime as a subscription-based strategy supports customer retention in the UK e-commerce market? The aim is to analyze how Prime supports retention through four mechanisms: ecosystem integration, structural switching costs, habit reinforcement, and value-sensitive commitment. There are three objectives. The first is to critically examine the theoretical foundations of subscription-based marketing and customer retention. The second is to analyze secondary data on Amazon Prime service architecture and UK market context. The third is to interpret the findings against theory and develop scholarly and managerial recommendations. The scope is deliberately narrow. I focus only on UK consumer Prime membership. I exclude AWS, Amazon Business, and non-UK markets. This boundary is important because it prevents the dissertation from overcoming. The literature review examines six main concepts. Subscription theory explains how recurring access can become more than a pricing model. It can become a retention structure. Customer retention theory distinguishes between behavioral retention and attitudinal loyalty. This matters because a customer may continue subscribing without being emotionally loyal. Switching cost theory explains why customers may remain with a service when cancellation creates financial, procedural, and psychological costs. Relationship commitment theory explains the rule of trust and attachment. But my dissertation argues that in subscription ecosystems, commitment is often more functional than emotional. Habit formation explains how repeated use reduce deliberate decision making. Finally, ecosystem integration explains how multiple services within one platform can create stronger embeddedness than a single service alone. The conceptual framework is the core of the dissertation. I combine the four strongest constructs into one model: ecosystem integration, structural switching costs, behavioral engagement, and value-sensitive commitment. My argument is that this mechanism should not be analyzed separately. Ecosystem integration creates the structure. Switching costs make exit more difficult. Behavioral engagement makes use more routine. Value sensitive commitment explains my customers continue why they continue only while the overall bundle feels over the price. This leads to the concept of retention architecture. By this, I mean a designed system where continued subscription becomes the easiest or most retentional option for the customers. This is the main theoretical contribution of the dissertation. The methodology follows the research question because the question asks how Amazon Prime supports retention. A qualitative design is more appropriate than a purely quantitative one. I adopted a pragmatic philosophy because the study investigates a practical strategic issue. I used a deductive approach because the analysis starts from established theories and applies them to the Amazon Prime case. The method is a monomethod qualitative case study. Amazon Prime is a suitable single case because it is more prominent, well documented, and strategically complex. The time horizon is cross-sectional because the study examines contemporary evidence from the dissertation period rather than tracking the same customers over multiple years. This design is appropriate because the purpose is explanation, not statistical prediction. The dissertation uses secondary documentary data only. The main sources include Amazon and annual reports and Prime UK pages, Ofcom publications, ONS retail data, peer-reviewed academic literature, and selected industry sources used cautiously. The analysis uses theory-driven qualitative content analysis. I followed 5 steps: screening sources, extracting evidence, assigning initial codes, grouping codes under the 4 framework categories, and interpreting the themes. The key strength is transparency. The coding process creates a clear link between the data, the themes, and the final conclusion. The key limitation is that secondary data cannot reveal individual customer motives or internal Amazon retention metrics. I manage this limitation through triangulation by comparing corporate sources with regulatory, statistical, and academic sources. The findings identify 4 interdependent mechanisms. First, ecosystem integration, prime bundle delivery, video, music, reading, gaming, photos, and promotional access into one membership. This creates cross-domain engagement. Second, structural switching costs. Canceling Prime does not mean losing one benefit. It means losing several benefits at the same time. The cost of exit is therefore layered. Third, behavioral engagement. Shopping, streaming, and device-based interactions can become routine. This means continued use becomes less consciously evaluated. Fourth, value-sensitive commitment. Retention is conditional. Customers remain subscribed when the total bundle feels worth the recurring cost. The important point is that these findings work together. No single mechanism explains retention on its own. The slides show how the findings are grounded in evidence rather than assertion. Amazon's own sources show the breadth of Prime benefits. Ofcom provides independent evidence about UK streaming and subscription behavior. ONS supports the wider e-commerce context by showing that online retail is structurally embedded in the UK retail environment. Industry evidence on subscription cycling supports the argument that customers are value sensitive and willing to cancel when subscription feel less worthwhile. The evidence therefore supports both sides of the argument. Prime creates strong embeddedness, but that embeddedness is not unlimited. Customer still reassesses value. The tension is important because it stops the dissertation from making an exaggerated claim that Prime retention is automatic. The research question can now be answered directly. Amazon Prime supports customer retention through a retention architecture. This means that retention is produced through the interaction of multiple mechanisms. Ecosystem integration creates multi-domain value. Structural switching costs make cancellation more costly. Behavioral engagement makes repeated use normal. Value-sensitive commitment keeps the subscription active as long as the perceived benefit exceeds the cost. The discussion contributes to the theory in 3 ways. First, introduces retention architecture as a system-level concept. Second, it extends switching cost theory by showing that switching costs in platform ecosystems are layered and dynamic. Third, it challenges emotional loyalty models by showing that subscription persistence may reflect structural dependency rather than deep brand attachment. The main strength of the research design is fit. A qualitative case study is appropriate because the research question asks how retention is structured. The theory-driven coding also provides transparency, and triangulation reduces dependence on Amazon's own claim. However, there are 3 limitations. First, secondary data does not give access to internal Amazon retention metrics. Second, a single case study cannot produce statistical generalization. Third, a cross-sectional study cannot show how individual customer behavior changes over time. These limitations do not invalidate the dissertation. They define what the study can and cannot claim. The study provides analytical generalization, not universal measurement. The dissertation achieves all three objectives. Objective 1 was achieved through the literature review, which critically examined subscription models, customer retention, switching costs, commitment, habit formation, and ecosystem integration. Objective 2 was achieved through the secondary data analysis, which identified four evidence-grounded themes. Objective 3 was achieved through the discussion, theoretical contribution, and recommendation. The core conclusion is that Amazon Prime does not simply retain customers, it engineers retention. Continued subscription is produced by service integration. Layered exit cost, habitual engagement, and ongoing value perception. This reframes retention as a design condition rather than only a customer attitude. The recommendations follow directly from the findings. For managers, the key recommendation is to design for retention architecture, not just add features. Firms should protect a high frequency anchor benefit, such as delivery before expanding the bundle. They should make value visible through saving summaries and users reminders. They should build layered switching costs across different daily contexts and monitor cancellation signals before customer leave. For future research, the most important direction is primary consumer research. Interviews could test whether Prime users stay because of genuine loyalty or because the service is structurally embedded in their routines. Longitudinal research would also be valuable because it could examine how retention architecture changes over time. To conclude, this dissertation argues that Amazon Prime's